opening of the Oldham County Code Enforcement Board hearing for September the 4th, 2019. Would like to go to the swearing in?
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do too.
Okay, at this time, we're going to look at the old business. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes?
Yes, I move the minutes be accepted as presented.
We have a motion on the floor for the minutes to be approved. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, on to new business.
All right, good afternoon. The case is citation number 526. The address is 3904 Joyce Drive in Crestwood, 40014. The owner of record is Russell and Angela Thomas that reside at that address. A hearing was not requested. The violation is the Oldham County Nuisance Ordinance 89-800-846, Section 1. And I'll skip reading through it if y'all are good with that. On May 29th, the Code Enforcement Office received a complaint regarding the condition of the property. Site visit was done. The grass was up fairly well. Other vegetation, bushes, trees, all that were, didn't look like they'd been trimmed up in a while. Sent a courtesy letter to the owners, and here's two of the photos. I couldn't get the roofs to line up there, but that's across the front of the property. I received a phone call from them wanting some extra time. I gave them some extra time, and in all actuality, gave them more time than what I intended, so I didn't get back till July 24th. I did a follow-up visit and found no noticeable improvement in the condition of the property. Took some photographs and sent the notice of violation. On August 9th, did another follow-up visit, and without any improvement on the property, citation 526 was issued via certified mail, and a copy of the citation was posted on the front of the residence. There's photos from that visit. And the citation on the front door. Now, since then, they got in contact with me. They've done a fair amount of work. I followed up today, this morning, found the front and the side yards were in compliance. I've got the photos from it. The backyard's pretty good. They're still not totally done with it. But there's what the front yard looks like now. And all that overgrowth that was on the between the house and the driveway has been cut back. And in all actuality, these folks don't have a lawnmower. So it was quite impressive for what they got done. Now, that's the rear yard. Photo was taken from a cul-de-sac down the side. I didn't have any before photos of it. It's opened up quite a bit, but she's still got some work to do. She contacted me yesterday and said that they're going to continue to work on it, but they're literally pulling weeds by hand, so it's not a fast process. So that's where we are at as of today.
What is the situation with these folks? Are they unemployed? They're having hard time scraping together the money enough for a lawnmower, so
Hard times.
health issues or anything like that? Just
Basically just hard times. I had an issue with them last year. They were able to work through that. Took them a while. And this is actually the best I've seen this property in the last couple of years. So she says she wants to finished getting the rear yard done, and I'd like to take her at her word at it. She says they're gonna keep working even after today, but that's where we're at.
Well, what's your recommendation? You'd rather work with them, or rather us cite them, and give them 60 days to abate, or?
I think if y'all impose a fine and hold it in abeyance for another 30 days, or however long, I think I'd feel more comfortable with that.
You say it's been a problem before?
Yeah, it's the lack of a lawnmower is the problem. They don't have one on their property. I don't know.
Probably.
Anybody else have any other questions?
How long can you hold it in abeyance?
Oh, as long as we want. I'm tempted to, give them 60 days since they're experiencing difficulty, and
And if you did it 60 days, that would kind of get us to the end of the growing season. Give them a chance to clean it up, and at least through the winter it would be.
okay, I'll proceed if there's no more discussion. I'll move that the citation was properly issued on August the 9th to Mr. and Mrs. Thomas, who are the owners, and notice of the hearing was given to them at this time. And I believe that is the extent of my motion.
Okay. For procedural matters, we have a motion on the floor that the hearing, that the respondent was identified on August the 9th, is that correct? 2019?
Yes.
That request. So do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion, opposed? Okay, motion carries.
And I'll also move to find that there was a nuisance ordinance violation. KOC 89-800-846, Section 1. That's the extent of my motion.
We have a motion on the floor for a nuisance complaint. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, motion carries.
And remedial order, I move to, okay, I move that the terms of the remedial order should be the property needs to be brought into compliance within 60 days from today's date.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for a remedial order that the property be brought into compliance 60 days from today's date. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Let's call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Okay.
And I move to assess a civil fine in the amount of $25 a day, and from August the 9th to today would be, let's see,
26 days.
26 days total? Okay, 26 days, times $25 is, I have to Get another phone. This one doesn't respond to my fingers anymore.
$625.
$650.
25.
625.
625.
$625. And that,
I'm
that-
sorry, it is 650.
Yeah,
I
$650.
checked it, yep.
I move to assess a civil fine of $25 a day, total of $650 to be held in abeyance for 60 days, providing they meet the terms of the remedial order.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor for a fine of $650 based on $25 a day for 26 days, to be held in abeyance, provided they stay in, that they meet the compliance and stay within that. Do I have a vote on the, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, sir, you ready? Okay, we'll move on to the second.
All right, the next issue is from the last meeting, citation number 521. It was 3602 River Ridge Cove in Prospect. I've got the PowerPoint presentation, if you need me to pull it up. Basically, he needs a pull fence around his pool. He's run into an issue with the homeowner association. He thought he had it worked out initially and was gonna start construction. But 3 weeks ago, I left the state for a week, and they got sending emails back and forth, and I was in the email loop, and here it is over his pool fence.
The HOA and Mr.
Mr. Ritchie cannot come to terms over the fence on as far as the materials used, where it's supposed to be placed, or anything else. According to those, he's being threatened with litigation if he does anything prior to the homeowner association approving it. I mean, I understand they want to approve it, but they don't seem ready to approve anything he brings up. So I don't know,
How many times has he submitted something to them for approval?
twice that I'm aware of. And
And you don't know the details, whether he submitted it and they asked him to change it and he changed it and they still refused it, or?
my understanding is he submitted it, and they didn't ask for a change, they just refused to approve
No
it.
input.
The first one was supposedly one of those just black metal fences that had the rod sticking up. Several of the neighbors in the neighborhood have similar fences. They turned that down, so the next one was a 4-board wood fence with the wire screening on the outside. Several other neighbors have those, and they refused to approve that. And
It's like there's something else going on beneath all this.
there may very well be, but that's where we're at. I initially thought it would be up by now until this last string of run-ins he's had. So I don't know if there's anything we can do about it. You know, if we need to move this case forward, or do we need to, you know, check with county attorney's office to see if, because the fence has to go up around the pool,
Right.
you know.
You know, he's in violation of the code
Right.
and safety issues as well.
Exactly. My other issue is, you know, it should have been, I've told him, this should have been done over a year ago. You know, so he's trying to play catch up, and I appreciate the fact that he's trying. But then again, the homeowners association is gonna have to allow him to put something up.
Is there anything in the homeowners association bylaws that states the types of fence that,
I don't know.
We don't deal with the HOA deed restrictions.
okay?
And all we care about is public safety, and it can be a chain link fence for all we care. And of
Right.
course, we know that's not what's, but the reason I came over on this side was so I could have a discussion, and in particular with Mr. Hudson, regarding what do we do about this? Because
Okay.
we have to somehow compel the HOA to make a decision. It seems like they've stalemated. Darrell mentioned in his testimony that there are 2 different types of fences that he proposed, both of which neighbors have, both of which were rejected by the HOA. whatever the underlying issue is, what I was wondering was whether a decision of this body could then compel the staff basically me, write the HOA a letter saying you cannot block building code requirements. So he can then put up a fence if they're refusing. I mean, and again, this is gray area for me, so I'm trying to just figure out how to move this forward in a way that this board compels us to.
I don't think this board has any authority to compel the HOA to do anything unless the HOA commits a violation and is brought up by citation. I think the obligation is on the property owner to know what his or her duties are under both sets of rules. So in my opinion, the board could move forward with the citation, notwithstanding the problems that he has with the HOA. It's worth noting that he's not here. He didn't request a hearing specifically. So essentially what you have is an uncontested citation. The board has shown restraint in this particular case by not moving forward in the past, and that might be the right answer today in light of his problems with the HOA. But I would just suggest that Darrell talk to the HOA president and find out the other side of the story. I think there's probably more to it.
We asked them to make a recommendation of what fence they would approve.
Yeah, but there again, should that be Darrell's job or our responsibility? I
is.
mean, he needs to get a lawyer,
Yeah.
I think. And
There's two fences designs that are already on the subdivision that he's asked for and they've denied. I think he's got a case easily.
I think
Well,
that
and the-
discussion might be going outside of the scope of these proceedings,
yes,
but that might be another reason why to not move forward today if you want to show him some I don't know, grace, I guess is the correct word.
Well, what's interesting is these are not just simple one-line emails back and forth. There's a lot of text in these darn things, and so I haven't read it all, and I don't think we need to, but this is negotiation between the HOA, the HOA's attorney, the property owner, and so again, I'm trying to find some way of, because there's a pool out there that's a public safety issue. I don't think we should postpone this any longer, in my opinion.
yeah.
And I don't
Been
think
over a year.
I don't think the board's obligated to.
Yeah. So if we can't somehow compel the HOA to take action or make a decision, or the owners at least, maybe we should continue with a fine. And then that way, it will make sure that this thing gets moving somehow. You're right, the property owner is not here, didn't request this hearing, knows the issue, has been in communication with Darrell, correct?
Yes.
So, under your counsel, I think we should just go ahead and go through the normal, don't postpone this any longer. Again, the real issue is, there's a pool that's unprotected. We've all seen
Yeah.
in the news what happens.
That's exactly right.
Is the pool being used?
Yes.
Being used. And that'll come to an end here in about 30 days or less.
That still doesn't make it
Still
totally
makes it
safe,
unsafe,
because
though.
there's no fence.
I understand.
Because they're not required to have covers on them, even though this one more than likely will be closed up and have a cover, and so that's why we require fencing. You know, there are covers that retract and automatically or push of a button, but there's no guarantee that those are going to be closed. So the fences, and we've had long discussions about, and discussions with the state about requirements for the fencing, and the fencing is the one guarantee that somebody just doesn't walk in the yard and go in the pool.
Is there something that you can do to stop him from, make him drain the pool and stop using it until there's a fence up? It might get his attention if you somehow.
I don't know of a mechanism that we could use for that.
Fine, just a fine is the only mechanism we have.
There's a side to that, you know, usually as soon as the pool's put in place, they start putting water in it, because when you backfill, it starts putting pressure on the walls, so you really don't want to drain the pool to where there's no water in it, because then you have pool failure. Although that might get them to move faster, but it doesn't solve the problem essentially of, so I would say then let's just move forward with action of the board.
I'm still welcoming any discussion, but if we all are in concurrence to move forward, okay?
I'm prepared.
Okay?
You say the complaint was received on the 19th, on the 29th of May, but you had mentioned this has been going on for over a year?
Well, the pool permit was originally pulled in, trying to think, 2016, at the time that the home was under construction. I don't know the exact date that the pool was finished. I know they were using the pool last year in 2018.
Well, aren't we not we, but isn't the code, the building inspector liable to inspect that before he allows them to use it, or not?
Yes, but they had to call for the inspection.
They have not done that.
They have not done that.
And we've had issue with pool companies not calling for that, and then some say, well, it's the owner's responsibility. Some pool companies don't put fencing up. They're just installing the pools, and so we've, Chief Building Inspector, for the past 2 summers, we've been pushing on these pool builders. We actually now require a $500 bond for each pool permit, which is refunded once we get a final inspection, so we're trying to clean that up, but it's become problematic.
And we've actually
There's
got
no
a
really-
better tracking method also. When the permit clerk issues the permit, she also makes a notation into the computer system. For 6 months down the road, it will pop up
A
on the
reminder.
magic day as a reminder.
But there's no way to put a stop work order on a pool in somebody's backyard when they live there, I guess. I mean, how do you enforce that? If you're building a structure, you know, you can put a stop work order on it if they're in violation, but how do you do that with a pool?
We really don't. Yeah, they go fairly quickly, and, you know, there's an electrical permit, and they have to bond it, and, you know, bonding of the electricity, not cash bond.
Right.
And then, you know, again, it goes quickly. Usually doesn't take several weeks. And again, once they put the pool in, they start filling it with water, so they can backfill as they fill it with water, and
Right.
so it's hard to put a stop work order on it when we don't know that it's gonna be a problem, because the fence isn't up yet.
Okay. Okay, well, that was my last question, I think.
Okay? All right, who would like to start?
Okay, just to review, the date of the citation was August the 9th, correct? Are you going to present this first? You have not presented this yet, have you?
Yes, I did last month. I can go over it again.
Just to refresh us on a few highlights,
Yeah,
maybe the.
Primarily the dates
Okay.
and some other things, yeah.
Okay, April 26th is when I was initially notified by Mr. Mark Tice, Chief Building Inspector, that the permit was still outstanding. A courtesy letter was generated out of my office, sent to the owner, instructing him to get with Mr. Tice so they could, you know, finish the inspection process, get the permit closed. Here's what we had on file, the actual pool permit that was issued in 2016, and along with the drawing that was supplied when they came to get the pool permit. And there's a copy of the letter that was sent to the owner. On May 16th, the property owner had not contacted Mr. Tice. He let me know he still hadn't heard from him. I conducted a site visit, but there was no fence. So I generated a notice of violation sent to the owner. And according to their drawings, the fence is actually supposed to come off directly off the sides of the house. So they should be visible right there. On June 27th, did a follow-up visit. No fence was present, so citation 521 was issued via certified mail, and a copy was left on the front of the residence. And there's photographs from that visit. On July 1st, Mr. Ritchie emailed me a copy of his fence proposal. He was expecting construction to begin by the middle of July. However, the homeowner association intervened into that one. And there was a copy of his paperwork from the fence company. On July 24th, Mr. Ritchie contacted me saying that a new design was he was trying to develop, get with the homeowner association, get that done. And on August 3rd, he contacted me stating that he'd received the approval from the homeowners association for a new fence design, and it was going to be started by August 15th. And then there's the paperwork for that design. On August 7th, did a follow-up. No progress had been made. And then the following week is when I left and the email started. So, and as of today, the fence is not up.
So your citation was June the 27th. Yeah.
Let me double check
That's what
that
you just,
date.
that's what you just,
Okay, yes.
yeah.
In the
June
27th?
27th.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
So based on what I think I heard you say, around the 1st of August, somewhere around in there, and he said, I've had this approved, HOA approved it, we'll start construction, what, mid-August?
Mid-August.
So August the 15th, that's when he said he was gonna start construction.
Yeah. And that's why we continued it,
Yeah,
to this
that's fine.
hearing, was to give him time.
So was he mistaken that they had approved it?
I don't know the details
Might have spoke
on
before he got
what happened.
approval.
Yeah, he may have had approval pending, he thought. I don't know the details of what happened. But as of right now, he's not building anything.
Okay. Are we finished with discussion right now? We'll move forward with procedure matters, okay? All right, so we have a motion on the floor that the citation was properly issued on June the 27th, 2019. The respondent did not request a hearing. And so with the motion on the floor, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a
Who
second.
made that motion?
You did.
No, I just asked a question. I haven't made a motion
Oh, I'm
yet.
sorry. I thought you were asking.
No, I was just asking, I was just
procedural.
confirming that that was the date.
I'm sorry, pardon
But
me.
I'm ready to make that motion now.
Okay, now can you do it and I'll repeat it?
Okay, I move that the motion, I move that the citation was properly issued on June 27th to the owners, Mr. and Mrs. Thomas, and who are the owners of the property, and,
That's
Richie.
Mr. and Mrs. Ritchie.
Richie,
oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Ritchie. Steve M. and Melissa Ritchie.
Okay.
Correct my motion. They are the owners of the property, and notice this hearing was given to them on June 27th. And they did not request a hearing to contest the citation within 7 days of issuance of the citation. That concludes my motion.
All right, now I'm ready to step back in. Motion was made by Board Member Moss, and I'm looking to second that the procedure matters were that the citation was issued properly on June the 27th, that the respondent did not request a hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, with I have a second, can I have call for a vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
And this is a zoning ordinance violation, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'll move that there was a zoning ordinance violation that was committed, and I'm going to say that the fence is not completed as per required by the county building code. That concludes my motion.
Okay, and Mr. Moss, you said the fence was not,
The fence,
was
I'll
not,
move that a zoning ordinance violation was committed, specifically that the safety fence around the pool was not constructed per the zoning regulations
thank you,
and building code.
thank you. Okay, Board Member Moss has made a motion that the zoning ordinance violation, that the safety fence was not constructed according to building code. So do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. So I have a second. I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, motion carries.
And moving on to the remedial order, I move that the terms of the remedial order state that fence be constructed to bring the pool into compliance with the local building codes within 30 days from today's date.
Okay. Okay, we have a remedial order on the floor made by Board Member Moss that the fence be constructed according to the building codes and it be to be completed within 30 days from today's date.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion, opposed nay, motion carries.
And as far as the civil fine, I move to assess a civil fine in the amount of $50 per day. And is that what you got, 69? I came up with 71. But I had three, let's see here. Had 3 days in, where's my notes? On the 27th of June, you got 3 days in June. You got 31 in July, 31 in August, and 3 in September.
10 weeks to tomorrow, that times 7 is 70 days minus 1, because it's Wednesday, so that's how I
Okay.
got 69.
Okay. 69's okay. I'm not gonna split hairs. So, at $50 a day times 69 days, is $3,450. And I'll note that that's not the maximum fine, and that fine be held in abeyance for 30 days to meet the terms of the remedial order.
Okay? We have a civil fine motion on the floor that made by Board Member Moss, that the citation was uncontested, that a fine will be instituted at $50 a day times 69 days for a total of $3,450. It is to be noted that this is not the maximum fine, and that this amount will be held in abeyance for 30 days to meet the remedial order.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second So I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
I have a question. May I have a question about this? To make it a little bit tougher, is it possible to cite him under a nuisance ordinance too because of the danger to health and welfare?
I think for today's purposes, you're limited to what's on the citation that was issued by the code enforcement officer. You'd have to start all over.
All right, sir. Any other questions or any other citations for today?
That's all of it.
Okay, I want to thank you all.
I do have just
Sure.
one thing. A couple of months ago, I'm pretty sure we talked to the board about updating the code enforcement ordinance, and
Right.
Matt and Darrell worked on some simple changes. And one of the changes is to bring us in compliance with the state statute that actually says that we go right to a citation, but in lieu of a citation, we can give a notice of violation. Our ordinance says issue a notice of violation and then citation. And the reason we're going to that and relying on that is because occasionally we have issues, particularly, and you've seen at least one case or two, I think, with, in relation to a silt fence not being either installed or maintained. And so we're gonna go,
Time there is sensitive. You
That's-
can't let it sit unmaintained.
that's correct. So on September 17th is the second reading of that ordinance, and we still don't have the fine schedule refined yet, but we anticipate adopting a fine schedule along with that, and that'll allow us to work closer with the county engineer's office and be able to go out and issue citations, which also are associated with an immediate fine.
Will those be different, the fines be different amounts for different violations?
Yes,
Such as a silt fence violation is gonna be different than a nuisance ordinance violation?
that's correct. Yeah, but we're going to have all of them listed and adopted.
Oh,
So
okay.
addressing has a certain fine in the ordinance, false alarms have a certain fine, and then we're still working on the ones that we can associate. So rather than it being a $25 a day or $50 times X days, it'll just be a number.
Right, yeah, that makes it much easier.
And then if they want to request a hearing and contest the citation, they can. And that comes with its own separate fine schedule. So it'll be really easy for us to be able to say, okay, here's the fine amount.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no more math on the phone.
right.
I know
Or
you're gonna miss
dis-
that.
Or discussion about how many days, yeah.
Right.
So just so you all know, September 17th, it should be voted on, a second hearing, public hearing at fiscal court, and then we'll move on from there.
So maybe by the October meeting, we might have a new,
It takes 30 days after the adoption of the ordinance to be enacted, so sometime in October, and so really by November, we'll be operating, well, by the middle of October, we'll be operating under that new ordinance.
okay,
That's all I have. Thank you.
thank you.
Any other business to come before the board today? If not, we so adjourn.
Sorry I was late.
Oh, no, I've been hacking and coughing. I got allergies. That's why I couldn't talk a whole lot. And I had water. I've been taking stuff.
I'll see you all next month.
Yep.